After much screaming and freaking out, Derek had finally regained his composure. Or at least he stopped screaming and freaking out quite as much, and tried analyzing his current predicament. For instance, Derek learned very quickly that he'd been shot. When he touched one of his hands to the spacesuit at chest level, he discovered a hole there. The contours of the hole had been singed, indicating gunfire, though the flesh beneath it was unmarked. On top of that, there was a lot of purple jelly on both his suit and the dead bodies. He assumed that, in alien world, purple jelly was the equivalent of blood. Derek turned around to see the spot where he'd been woken up, noticing a lot of blood and splattered viscera. This makes no sense. This body was dead until I somehow happened to wake up in it. And for whatever reason, it's also fully healed. Oh man, this means all religions are dead wrong. Good thing I never believed in any of that bullshit. Otherwise, I'd be really disappointed right now. He imagined getting back to his old body and telling people that, after you die, all that's waiting for you is an alien spaceship. He didn't think he'd get too many followers with that information. Derek proceeded to examine his new body. In addition to the 4 arms, it had 2 legs that were long and skinny. The legs were also reverse jointed, like those of a cat. There were 3 toes on both of his feet. Derek was curious about his facial features, but there was no reflective surface in sight. When he tried touching his face, he was reminded that the suit came with a helmet. He could only pat the glass surface. Based on the shape of the helmet, Derek deduced that his new face was shaped similarly to a shark's dorsal fin. Then he spoke. Test, Derek Esposito. 1, 2, 3. He could do it, but it was still English. He hadn't inherited any memories from the body's previous owner. Derek tried getting up, but the center of gravity was way different from his old body. After falling over a couple of times, he had to crawl like a baby. On his hands and knees, he worked to examine the corpses, trying to make heads or tails of what was happening. There were 2 different types of uniforms on display. One side wore a red-colored spacesuit, and the other faction wore gray. Derek's suit was gray as well, so he'd found his allies. Judging by how everyone had been shot to death, it was likely these were 2 opposing sides in a war. He had no idea which team was winning, and he didn't care either. Unless the suit was equipped with a universal translator, he would be incapable of communicating with anybody. Enemies would kill him on sight. Allies would probably ditch him like garbage when they realized he was useless to them. He couldn't talk, couldn't even walk. His days in space were numbered. Unbelievable. I've been alive for 5 minutes and I'm already dead. Refusing to give up, Derek managed to stand by leaning on the walls and slowly working himself to his feet. Once he'd taken a couple of lurching steps without falling over, he started exploring. The corridor had many doors, but most of them were closed and wouldn't open no matter what he did. That seriously limited his options. Derek tried pushing buttons at random to see if he could open a door, but nothing happened. To make matters worse, he was starting to get hungry. Is this how I die a second time? Starving in a damn spaceship in the middle of some weird ET battle? I don't even know what this body eats. Even if I knew what it eats, it might be rat guts or something. I'd rather starve. And even if I did find something tasty, I don't know how to get this helmet off. Pretty soon, hunger and frustration drove him to the edge of hysteria. Derek screamed and kicked at a couple of dead bodies in the hall. Eventually, he tripped and fell with an oof. Either he got knocked unconscious or fell asleep due to hunger and exhaustion. When he woke, his mind was clear again and he felt calm. Calm, but hopeless. This is a nightmare. I'm all out of options. Even if I wanted to kill myself, I wouldn't know how. He banged the back of his head against the wall to keep frustration at bay. Who knew that being reborn in a sci-fi environment is truly the worst-case scenario? Alien body, alien customs, no sense of the language. And to make matters worse, everything here is so high-tech I can't even open a door. Even if I had an instruction sheet, I couldn't read it. I don't know their language. His hunger was getting worse. Derek started wandering again, this time banging on every door he met, trying to draw someone's attention. Derek was on the verge of fainting again when finally a door opened. He lost his balance and fell to the ground in his surprise. A whole squadron of gray-suited aliens waited on the other side of the door, standing in formation. One of them held a sleek, rifle-like weapon. Derek remained seated and waved a hand, hoping it was a peace sign. "Please don't kill me," he thought. The captain couldn't believe it. One of his soldiers appeared to have come back from the dead. "Captain, that's Zark," one of the lieutenants said. "He really is alive." The captain had been certain that Zark's reappearing life signal had been a glitch in the computer system. Now he saw he'd been wrong. The fool was even waving at him. Didn't Zark remember that waving the upper right torso appendage was a signal of aggression? Perhaps Zark had gone insane. The captain ordered his soldiers to remain vigilant. They never lowered their weapons as he strode towards Zark. "What are you doing on the floor, soldier? And how in Thrak's name did you survive that ambush?" the captain asked. Everyone was stunned when Zark began speaking in a garbled language none had ever heard before. "What is he saying? Medic, translation." The purple-suited medic walked forward and scanned Zark's body. "Sir, he's not speaking any language found in the Empire. Also, the scanner confirms that the hole in his armor came from a Corellan blaster. It's impossible that he survived." "This could be some new enemy trick." The captain's tone was grim. If the Corellans began reanimating their dead, who knew what kind of damage they could do? He took a staff from a soldier's hand and pushed a button. A blade of pure energy sprang from the tip. Zark waved all his appendages and barked something else in that bizarre language. The captain acted quickly and plunged the blade into Zark's chest. Zark twitched once and slumped over, dead. Hopefully for good this time. "Listen up, soldiers. Zark was a good comrade, and we will remember and mourn him as such. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't Zark. Right now, we can't risk anything. Not with those Corellan rebel scum still at large. Better some collateral damage than a spy among our ranks. Now shut that door and check the perimeter again." The captain walked away, leaving Zark's dead body behind. Getting stabbed had been a less than painful death. Derek could feel the blood filling his lungs and the burning in his chest. He'd struggled to breathe before falling unconscious. It only took a minute to die, but that minute lasted an eternity. Then he was rising into the air once more. Once again, he found himself pulled into a blinding light. Just like the last time, he felt all his worries and rage fading. But now he was also annoyed. The chance was good he'd been sent into another world and another life now. What had he done to deserve this? Derek had never believed in any god. Hence he'd never believed in an afterlife. Maybe that's why he was being bounced around like this. He had nowhere to go, no peace to find. He also got the sinking suspicion that what was happening to him wasn't the usual order of business. He was being uniquely punished. But why? "This is insane," he thought. "There are plenty of terrible people in the world. Some of them are born evil creeps and live their whole lives enjoying being the scum of the earth. Then there are people like me who never caught a break and got pushed and pushed until we snapped. Even if I am evil, I tried to be good for most of my life. Why should I go to the same hell as, like, Hitler? That's why I didn't believe in an afterlife. How could you find any true justice after death? But now here I am, getting tortured for no good reason. What's the point of being reborn if I can't start from scratch? Why do I still have memories and hang-ups? Whatever body or planet I end up in, I'll still have my baggage. Is this happening because I needed to learn a lesson? But how can I if I'm the same person I was before?" As Derek waited to be reincarnated again, he had a moment of clarity. It's just like his shrink told him. No one can change you except for you. Derek could only change if he wanted to, but too much had happened to him. He didn't want to be anything else. He didn't want to be, period. And now death wasn't even an option. Suddenly, he was pulled downwards and away from the light. His vision blurred, but he could hear a lot of commotion around him. Giant hands were holding him. Judging from the breeze on his butt cheeks, he was naked. I don't know what the hell is going on, but I bet I'm in trouble again. When Derek was finally able to see, he discovered that a giant wasn't holding him. The woman was normal-sized. He himself was tiny. A baby, to be precise. The woman was a withered old crone, one who smiled in Derek's face and said something in a garbled language that he couldn't understand. Stunned, Derek looked around at everyone else in the room. He was in a wooden shack, surrounded by people dressed like they were peasants in some medieval times banquet. The women wore long dresses and bonnets, and the men wore breeches. At the old woman's words, the people grinned and cheered. Derek tried to say something, but all he could do was cry. As a baby, what else could he do? Yep, in trouble again. Man, do I hate being right all the time.